novella. Welcome to my channel. Normally I speak about translated fiction, but today it's going to be a little bit different. There's a lot of English and American fiction too, but not very popular fiction, so can be interesting. So stick around. There are two books that aren't translated in English, but I want to mention them anyhow. Why? Because I find their stories important. Yesterday I read The Road by Cormac McCarthy, and I really enjoyed it. It's a very bleak novel, but it's also very heartwarming and very loving. It's about a man and his son. They are both unnamed throughout the story, and they have survived a catastrophe. The world is completely destroyed in a way, everything is burned down, and there are only a few people that are still alive and trying to survive. And it's that struggle. They're on the road on their way to the coast, because the father hopes that there's still some life around the coast because there's water and everything. And we follow their horrible journey from where they lived, or somewhere in Central America, I presume, towards the coast. And it's heartbreaking, it's horrible, it's very bleak, like I told you before, but it's also the love between the father and his son is absolutely beautiful and heartwarming. And it really it absolutely found a little place in my heart. I will never forget this book, so this is an absolute 5-star read for me. So yeah, Cormac McCarthy, The Road. Very good. Then one of my favorite booktube channels is Books and Bow, and Willow really got me sold on this story. The Confessions of Franny Langton. It's about slavery and racism and hypocrisy. And so Franny Langton is what we call a métisse. So her father is actually the slave owner, and her mother died or disappeared, or I don't know, and I can't remember. And her father takes her to London, and he gives her away to a doctor, a craniologist, and his wife. And quickly there's a relationship between Franny and the madame of the house. And so normally I would really love this kind of stories. It's gothic, it's really dark, it's has a very Sarah Waters vibe, feel. I was thinking all the time about Fingersmith, something like that. But I was a bit underwhelmed. Maybe I didn't get it, or maybe I wasn't in the right mood. But I wasn't so. No, I found it a bit. It was like the author wanted to tell too much and wanted to. Although the premise was like very inviting, it didn't really work for me. I had no sympathy in a way for the characters. Not that it is really important, but and I thought that the author was a bit too ambitious. But maybe it's just because I read it fairly quickly, I read it in a day, but I didn't find it very gripping. It's possible that it needs a reread, because I had the same thing with Matrix by Laura Groff, and then after a second read, I really found it extraordinary. But yeah, it was good. The prose is good, but it lacked something, and I don't really know what it was. So maybe I will definitely keep it, and maybe I will reread it someday. Then this is translated fiction from, where is she from? Is it Norway or is it Sweden? Karolina Ramqvist is a Swedish author, and Saskia Vogel is a Swedish-American author, and she's a translator of this book. It's called Bear Woman. I thought I was going to read about the Bear Woman, which is a woman of nobility who was one of the first to travel to Canada to settle there. And because she was pregnant by out of wedlock, or how do you call it, she was abandoned, and she survived 2 years in the wilderness in Canada, what is now like Newfoundland, or must be. And then she was rediscovered by fishermen, and so I thought it was going to be about this woman mostly, but actually it was about the author who did her research and how she felt, and it was a huge letdown. I mean, come on. She wanted to visit the castle where the Bear Woman lived before she left France, and she mostly talked about how taxi drivers wouldn't take her to the castle, and yeah, it was. Her research was rather poor, I found. She was more talking about her children and dealing with her children, and it was like, yeah, very poor me. I find that I have done a lot of research for books too, and it's boring, and it's tedious, but it's also fun, and it's also... she actually, at the end of the book, you realize that she has found nothing more about the Bear Woman than a book that was published in the early 80s and is not available anymore, about the Bear Woman. And that's it. So, although the cover is beautiful, I think it's... what a face. What a look. A 1-star read for me. Didn't get it. Then, I read Cantoras, which was an absolute delight. Cantoras by, what's her name? Karolina Robertis. And that was absolutely stunning. This is a must read for everyone. So the story Cantoras is set in it starts in 1970s Uruguay during the regime, and it's about a group of women that are friends and sometimes lovers, and it is how they deal with living under a very strict regime, and in sometimes women disappear and then they come back, and then they have been locked up for a couple of weeks, and They always expect to be raped, so they prepare themselves mentally for that. And those were horrible days, but the friendship and their chosen family makes everything worthwhile in a way. It keeps them going in a way. And then we end around the years 2000 when the regime is already gone. But it's a beautiful book about friendship, about love, about resilience, about resistance. It is written with so much love for the people that had to live under a regime that is harsh and inhumane or unhuman. Oh, I'm struggling with my English lately. But the prose is magnificent. It is so well written, so beautifully done. I was really blown away by this story. This is not even a 5-star read. It's a 10-star read. I had to recover a couple of days from this book. And unfortunately, I read Bear Woman just after that, and it wasn't a good idea. So yeah. And then I bought a couple of books. This one, I was looking for translated fiction that recently came out, and I have found the Nocilla trilogy, by Augustín Fernández Mallo. It's a trilogy, so you have Dream, Experience, and Lab. And so it are intertwined stories. So the first is about, in the middle of the desert of Nevada, there's a poplar tree decorated with hundreds of pairs of shoes. And further up the US Route 50, a lonely prostitute falls in love with a collector of pictures. In Las Vegas, an Argentinian builds a special monument for Jorge Luis Borges, and on the run for the authorities, a man resides in the airport of Singapore. And then somewhere in Spain, Mark, who is a avid reader of the Agrarian Guide, Phillips 1968, he hangs math formulas on washing lines. And in London, there's the artist Jodorowsky. He spends hours painting pieces of gum that are stuck to the curb. In Miami, Harold is eating all kinds of boxes of cornflakes that has his ex-wife's birthday as expiration date. And then in the meanwhile, Anton de Corbucion in Spain works on a daring theory about communalities between duck muscles and hard disks. And then the last book is in a deserted town in the area of Chernobyl. A man returns to wander abandoned streets. It seems interesting though, don't you think? Nocilla Triology by Augustín Fernández Mallo. That's it. And then a non-fiction book by Mary Austin. It's the land of... Wait. The Land of Little Rain. It's a collection of essays about nature, about herself, her life, fables, and beautiful nature writing, I'm told, about where she lives in the desert, and she lives in, where is it? Near the Grand Canyon. And apparently it's so beautiful. I really want to read it. It was published in 1934. That's her. Beautiful, huh? Then I bought The Witch's Heart by Genevieve Gronichec. So this is a story that sets off when a witch is burned, but she doesn't die. She is rescued by a guy named Loki. Yeah, Loki. It's a mythical story about love, loss, hope for modern times. It's a Norse myth. So yeah. Then I also found Leonora Carrington Down Below. This is also a Dutch publication. We have a publishing house that is called Orlando, and they specialize in female fiction that is almost forgotten. And they also published, for instance, some books by Vita Sackville-West, by many women, and this is Down Below. So Leonora Carrington met in 1936 or 7 Max Ernst, and she flees with him to Paris, and then during the Second World War, Max Ernst, because he's a Jew, he is transported to Auschwitz, dies there. And she has huge mental problems, so her friends take her to Spain, that is neutral at those days, and they put her in a psychic institution. And in this book, she describes what she has gone through during that period in the institution in Spain. So yeah, it must be fun summer read. Okay, but hey, it must be interesting though. Leonora Carrington, she was born in England in 1917 and died in Mexico in 2011. And she is one of the biggest surreal artists or painters in the world. I'm really curious. And then I also bought Fernanda Melchor Hurricane Season. I really like this cover. It's I really like it. Can you see it? It's about a woman who is found dead, and her nickname was a witch, and people were really convinced that she was a witch. It's a theme lately, witches, and it's about jealousy, drugs, passion, and greed, because people think that she is hiding a treasure. And then I lost. This is a book. Oh no, there are 2 books that I want to mention that aren't translated. This one, Martha's Labyrint, is a true story about Martha Geiringe, or something in that nature. And that's her. She was an Austrian Jew and a biologist, and she fled to Belgium in 1938 when there was the Anschluss, so where Germany and Austria became one, and so she fled to Belgium, where she met Yvonne Fontaine in Ghent, and she took residence in their home, in Yvonne's home, and yeah, they really become close. And the husband of Yvonne is the one who snitched. So he said to the Nazis, well, there's a Jew in my house and you can pick her up, because he was jealous of their friendship. I'm really happy that I've discovered this story, but it's not badly written, but it's badly put together. The man who wrote this book, Verschooris, he knows a lot, and actually too much, and he wants to show that. And you really have to find the story amongst all the information that is dumped in this book. It's too much. It's a compilation of all the info you need to write a really good story. So he stopped too early. And then there was another one that I read in Italian. Unfortunately, it's not translated yet, because Nicola Lagioia has been translated before in English, so I hope they will do this also for this one, or maybe not, it's possible. But so this is about a true story that happened in Rome a couple of years ago. It's the story about two guys that were bored with their life and their studies, and they were like the eternal students that prefer to study instead of going to work, and they were in their late 20s already, and they ordered a male prostitute. They wanted to torture somebody, and they wanted to see how far they could go, how much pain a person could endure before he died. His ordeal lasted for about 3 days, poor fella. And normally I wouldn't talk about these stories because it isn't translated. But I find that Luca must be remembered, and so he didn't die in vain. Well, he did die in vain. It's a sad thing, though. That's it. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.